presents Xbox Series X Game Showcase from July of 2020. My name is Dave Hunt, and I'm joined by Michael Swick.
Here we are. We said we're going to do it. This is Microsoft Week continues.
Yeah. My apologies for not getting this out a little sooner or being live on the day of the event. I had a bout of kidney stones, but I'm totally fine. So I drink too much pop, and I know I do, and this is the second time I've had them in my 30s, so I'll have to adjust and move on from there. While Michael takes a big drink of pop in front of me on the screen.
I'm sorry. I was going to take a sip no matter what. It just happened that you said that. But it's Coke, not Pepsi. So.
Yeah. So he saw me drink a can of Pepsi the other day, and he said that's what did it to me. That one can.
Mm-hmm.
So
yep.
If that's the case, then I'll just never drink Pepsi again. But I know it's not the case. So. All right, we are Digital Days Gaming. We are a weekly podcast that covers all gaming platforms. This is a special bonus episode. It's not a numbered episode. We are going to recap the Xbox Series X game showcase that they did on July 23rd, going over all of their first-party titles. And if this is your first time hearing us, we'd love and appreciate if you'd subscribe and maybe listen to some of the prior shows. And if you like the other shows, leave us a review. In your show notes, there's plenty of links for you to click on to join our community, whether it's Discord, Facebook, Twitter. There's Patreon in there as well. There's a bunch of stuff in there. So click on those links. It'll take you to your desired area that you want to go. And the Facebook group is always great for commentary. Discord has been having some really cool conversations. We've got some spoiler rooms in there about some of the previous games that have come out. People trying to group up and just get some things going. So it's everything is growing. We're still kind of, we're at the almost past the 6-7 month point now. So we're still continuing to build and grow our community. We'd love for you to be a part of it. And then again, if you could just rate the show and leave us a review, please write something that helps us move up the charts. And as always, just sharing the show. If this is your first time hearing us and you like what you hear because you are really into Xbox, or you just saw the event this week and you're searching stuff and you came across us, tell your friends. We'd appreciate it. Retweets, share it on Facebook. All the above is always appreciated. All right, we're going to get into it, and I'm not sure exactly what format Michael wants to use for this, but one of the things that I want to point out from the start that I noticed, obviously, was everything that they showed today, or yesterday, everything they showed at the event are on Game Pass, either Game Pass Ultimate, or they're free to play.
Yeah, everything in here will be available via Game Pass. That was a very huge part. I think they pointed that out before the show, and then in the middle of it, they mentioned it when Phil Spencer introduced himself. Game Pass is a huge thing for them. It's going to be the thing that they push probably harder than the console itself this holiday season. And I think this was less of a showcase for the Xbox Series X and more of a showcase for Game Pass, or at least that's how they walked away from it.
Well, it was more or less their ability to say, a lot of it was even the YouTube stuff. Like when I was watching the replay, it's 4K 60 frames. Like they were focusing a lot on 4K 60 frames for Series X stuff. And everything that they claim, everything that we saw today was running on the Series X. Whether everything we saw at the recap was on the showcase was running on the Series X. Whether that's true or not true, who knows? And then the other thing that I noticed on there prior to one of my statements from last week about the corrections on Series X exclusives is I did notice on the bottom of almost the majority of the trailers that they showed, it would say Xbox Series X, Xbox One, Windows PC. I did see a handful of stuff that just said Xbox Series X, Windows PC.
Yes, some first-party stuff specifically, because not everything was officially first-party, but there are some first-parties.
And a couple of them that I really noticed off the bat, I'm sure we'll talk about it, but some of them even said 2021. Mm-hmm. So that could start getting outside of this, however long this window is for their content to be on both. And I don't know if they're going to get away with having their content on both by saying, well, you can play it on Game Pass, and Game Pass works on your Xbox. Who knows? But it is something that we had been saying that we weren't a big fan of, and maybe slowly. But you had always said, Michael had always said that he thinks that might have just been a statement that they made, and then that line is really blurry, and then they're going to cross over that line multiple times, and they're just going to say, well,
it's at least a line that they can get away with backtracking on. I feel like,
right,
because the Xbox One, it sold really well, not as well as PS4, but it sold well enough that there's millions of people out there that might be hurt by it. So they're just trying to keep those people happy. But once a killer game comes out, I don't think anyone's going to be disappointed or pissed that they like made something exclusive for the new hardware.
Especially like 12 months, 13 months after it's been out, like next holiday. Like I think it would almost just be expected.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a good selling point bullet point this holiday when the economy's kind of into trash and some people aren't going to be able to buy a new console, and there might not be a ton of new consoles to even purchase manufacturing wise, that being very friendly of like this stuff launching this holiday will be available on all platforms. That's kind of just consumer friendly, but as the economy corrects itself, or hopefully corrects itself, they can move away and be like, hey, you got to buy the new thing. You got to buy it. It's going to be however much.
Yep. And then another just brief disclaimer. Again, if this is your first time listening, or maybe like listening to DDG in general, and you didn't know Michael and I previous endeavor, we were very heavily covered on PlayStation. We actually exclusively covered PlayStation. We have not been doing that for the last since the start of DDG. So there might be some things that we maybe don't fully understand, and if we don't, please let us know. Like if there's something obvious that we missed, go ahead and just tweet at us, post something in Discord, post something in Facebook, because I want to learn. Like there might be some things that I miss in here, or some things that maybe him and I don't have maybe the same energy that Xbox fans would have. So we would love to have you guys be part of our community to help broaden our horizons as well.
Yeah, we want to learn, and don't be mad at us, especially after we talk about the first game that was shown in the showcase, because me and Dave, we'll just jump right into it. They started the show with Halo Infinite, and as a disclaimer, I don't want to speak for you, but I respect Halo, and I know you respect Halo. It's just never been our thing.
I've never devoted enough time to even make a judgment on it. Like I have some of it now with Game Pass on PC that I have, and I've tried to play some of it, and that's when I was having some of my controller issues like prior to the holiday, and so then I ended up getting an Xbox controller for the holiday, and I just never went back.
Yeah, I dabbled in 2 and 3 for some co-op stuff back when it came out in high school, and I had friends that have Xboxes that would be like, hey, let's play a mission or two, and I enjoyed it, but I never got full into the lore. It would just be like, if it was available to play with my friends, we played it. But
yeah, so they started it off with showing gameplay like right away, like
real gameplay.
They're showing a cutscene, they're showing a conversation between Master Chief, I know who that is, and another guy that I don't know who it is. I'm assuming like we saw stuff early on as they were revealing Halo of like where he pulls Master Chief what appears to be like out of space. Like he's kind of just floating there, and he puts him on the ship, and then there's obviously this constant war going on. I think it said something about 187 days since they lost. And then there was a conversation, a dialogue back and forth between Master Chief and the other character about what they were going to do, and then Master Chief went out to what appears is to capture 3 tower points, and they were able to show off some of the open world aspect of it. Where you could put up, it looked like he was putting out multiple waypoints, and then they just showed off, just briefly, like the abilities, what I guess would be abilities, and then the multitude of weapons that Master Chief carries at one time, which was really interesting because like a lot of games, you get 2, maybe 3, and then you have to kind of like pick up different guns as you go. And I felt like I was seeing 4 or 5 different ones during this process. He might have been picking them up, and I might have just missed it.
He was picking some of them up, I believe, from the other enemies. But yeah, it seems like the new mechanic with this one is going to be the grapple hook. Every video game developer discovered grappling hooks the last like couple years, so that looked really cool. I was just happy, even though I'm not like super into the lore, just to get actual gameplay. We didn't really get gameplay from Sony. Ubisoft didn't really give us gameplay during that first like Xbox event, and I feel like a lot of times when we are promised gameplay, it's always super stylistic camera angles you would never see as a player, and this was like, no, here's actual gameplay, here's actual movement of the game, and I thought that was a really good way to start it. Showing new mechanics, showing like the map of like how open, because this is going to be like more open world than any previous like Halo game before. I believe it said the campaign and like the map
larger. The map's larger than
the last 2 games.
I want to say they said
combined.
The last 2 games combined. Yeah. Okay.
So that looked cool. They promised multiplayer. The multiplayer is what I'm more interested in, just because Halo has a prestige with multiplayer, and it kind of fell out of that with the last like 2 Halo games. And like right now, technically, the biggest streamer in the world, Ninja, came from a Halo background. I want to see how Halo in 2020 is going to go after like the multiplayer crowd and try and regain its crown, because like when Halo was at its best in multiplayer, it was kind of like the only multiplayer game around in terms of like it was like Halo and Call of Duty were like the 2 multiplayer games.
Well, Halo set the standard for
console.
Like 6v6 shooter, like multiplayer shooter game, like in terms of like team based, like LAN parties were built around that, obviously, and Xbox Live wouldn't be as successful as it ever was without the success of Halo. So
yeah, so I'm happy that I guess multiplayer will get its own event, and then they'll probably partner with streamers. I just want to know what their approach is to multiplayer now. Even though I know there was a Halo game like 3 years ago, a lot has changed in the last 3 years.
There was a ton of rumors today that like multiplayer wasn't going to ship with the game on time, and then like there was all these reports going around and people were quote tweeting it, and then I didn't catch who it was, but somebody from Xbox came out and said nothing to see here, not true.
Yeah, that's good.
Like they shot it down pretty quick. So because there's always the fear of of the developer being quiet or the company being quiet when all these rumors are swirling around is never a good look. So
yeah, it's a good thing that they came out for that. But everything I saw, it looks interesting. Interested to see, because they're breaking away from the numbers, is this going to be a good jumping in point for new players? How much of the lore am I going to need? Am I going to need to go through the Master Chief Collection that's been releasing on PC, over the last year, and prepare for Infinite? Or is it going to be like a good jumping in point for someone like me and you, who are like relatively like new to the franchise lore wise, and how it works for like older players as well? Like, how are they going to serve everybody in that instance? But I was just happy to see like clear gameplay. I thought it was a good thing to start the show with, and I believe it might have been one of the only gameplay things we saw. Really.
I mean, a lot of people were. There was some talk I was looking on Twitter yesterday while the event was going on, and I was looking a little bit more today. A lot of people seem to be kind of down on the way it looks, and that didn't really seem to bother me. But I mean, keep in mind that, again, similar to what we have been talking about for the last couple of months, is that with this game has to run on an Xbox One. Yes. Not only an Xbox One S or an Xbox One X, it has to run on an Xbox One. So, like, that, is it being held back by that? Absolutely. Is it something that I think looks like a prior gen game than the generation we're in right now? No.
But even then, like I will admit, when I did see the game, it didn't look next gen at all. But Halo, to me, as a casual outsider,
I don't think they go for graphic fidelity.
Yeah, it's been gameplay focused. It's been like the game is going to run at a high frame rate and it's going to be a smooth experience. The vistas have always been good. Like, that was something Bungie has always been good at, when they made Halo, and 343 has been able to continue that in terms of like doing like beautiful worlds and vistas. So that's still there. Character models looked a little, I wouldn't even say rough. They look current gen, and I guess that's what people are going by. But to your point, they have to work with old hardware as well. So there's always how crazy they can go.
And again, with multiplayer being more than likely cross-generational, that's going to affect it as well too.
They need to put it at a level where it could just be consistent 60 frames on all platforms, and that's the way they're going to have to do it. Maybe then once they like pull that Band-Aid out, they can do like an Ultimate Edition of Halo Infinite, in like a year or two, and then go from there.
All right. Then they moved on to a brief trailer for State of Decay 3.
Zombie deer.
Undead Labs is currently developing the next entry in its zombie survival series, State of Decay 3. And this was a CGI trailer.
Yeah, this was a cool trailer in terms of like visuals. I was trying to figure out what game it was the entire time until I forgot that Microsoft owns a studio that does a zombie survival game, because I was like trying to figure out what I'm looking at. But yeah, no, I don't think there's much to say here for State of Decay. Like, they've been consistent. They have a fan base. They consistently serve that fan base. But nothing that I've ever seen from State of Decay that interests me.
They didn't show anything. They didn't really date anything. It was just like, hey, it exists.
Yep.
That was the fancy 35-second trailer and a logo is what we got today, or got for them in this.
Yeah. So we'll just move on to
I
the
keep
next
saying
one.
today. My days are kind of mixed with being in the ER as late as I was.
Yeah. You're being in the doctor's, the ER a little late doesn't help.
And a huge shock, a complete shock out of left field is they showed a Forza game.
It's funny you say that, but my like, as a joke, but like, I was surprised that like that it's just gonna be called Forza Motorsport. They're gonna drop the numbers, but I guess Forza Motorsport 8. This is like a ridiculously big number, so they're just like kind of rebranding the franchise and starting fresh. This looked amazing. I'm not a racing fan, but this looked really good.
They touted a lot of 4K. Yeah, they touted 4K, 60 frames, ray tracing. What they showed was captured entirely in engine. And it's again, like, these are the way that it feels like it just goes hand in hand. New system, new box, new racing game. Like, it's just how it goes. It said, but they did say it's early on in development. Again, you and I aren't huge racing fans. And I know we got a couple people in the community that are racing fans. I know Ben is a huge racing fan, so I'm sure he was like drooling over this whole thing.
He was. I was in a chat with him at the time. he was freaking out.
Yeah, it looked great. I mean, it's just like, I feel like just from our PlayStation background, the Forza series and the GT series kind of go in terms of looks, run parallel with each other, and then in terms of the way that they play, one is a little bit more simulation, and the other one is more arcadey. So they both have their role and their fit.
So tight.
Yeah,
it looked good. All the in-engine stuff, I think it was a better showcase of Forza than what we saw with Gran Turismo, just because Gran Turismo showed us like some weird menu stuff that it's just like, oh, Gran Turismo menus are always bad. Even though this was, kind of mostly cinematic sort of look, I think it showcased better than Gran Turismo if we're going to like compare the two.
Well, I mean, they're two racing games that have been announced in the last month. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's inevitable that's going to happen. And then what I don't always understand is they have these little logos on them too. Like, it's just going to be enhanced for Series X. And I was hoping that they would give a little bit more clarity on what enhanced for Series X is meaning. Is that meaning 4K 60 frames with ray tracing, or is that going to be, because the current gens can't support ray tracing, right?
No, they cannot.
Yeah. So it was just, again, it's just kind of one of those the stamps that they put on their box that's not really entirely explained, and they're putting it on a lot of their boxes. Like Madden even is getting it enhanced for Series X.
I think it's just a catch-all, just because they can only put so much shit on the box. They don't want to put like ray tracing, 4K 60 frames on the box, so they're just doing a catch-all, which is gonna suck when like 3/4 of the game with that logo support 4K 60 frames and ray tracing, and then the one game that only supports one or two of those three has that logo.
Maybe they'll just get half the sticker.
Yeah, like if they could just do something, like the Call of Duty logo, like where Black Ops 4, they just keep adding a number to it. Maybe they could do something like that. But yeah, it looks good. The next game though, I was probably most excited about, just because it looks like my kind of jam. Everwild. So this is the new game from Rare. Rare always does decent work. They've been kind of rough. Like Sea of Thieves didn't hit as well as it should have, or it could have. And they've kind of just been stuck in like Xbox jail. It seems like, in terms of like, they were just doing like Avatar shit, prior to Sea of Thieves. And I know they did the Rare collection. So I'm hoping this is them getting on the right path. But Everwild, we just got a CGI trailer, or at least CGI, maybe in engine. It's hard to tell. It's got a very stylish art style, almost like cell shaded look to it.
Yeah, it looked awesome though. Like, in terms of the world and the environment that it appears that they're trying to tell. Like, I was very impressed with the game.
Yeah, I just watching it. I got like Breath of the Wild vibes. I got some Journey vibes. There's a bunch of different games that I saw in this trailer, and I was just like, I am excited for whatever the hell this ends up being. Because the trailer, like, it seemed like they were like resurrecting like a dead animal into like a spirit animal sort of situation. They did have a developer talk about like the game is going to explore how magic flows through nature, so it looks like it's going to be very whimsical and like colorful, probably going to have some sadness in it, because this seems like the type of game that would probably have some sad shit to make me cry, especially if there's like dead animals in it. So this was probably my favorite thing I saw, or one of the things I liked, though. This was another only listed for Series X and PC and Game Pass, but no release date on it. So
right, so like we've been talking about, which maybe leads me to believe like this is maybe holiday 2021 at the earliest.
Yeah, probably, just so it can be out of that
at the
window.
earliest. So yeah,
which I'm fine with, if it takes a while, especially because like Sea of Thieves didn't work out for them, so I'd rather them take their time. This would have been a great like launch game, just because it's one of those, like, it's not a AAA killer title, but it's one of those games at launch can thrive with like a limited library of games to choose from, which,
for sure,
there's always games that sell better than they would have because they're at launch and people are just hungry for new things, but it's also on Game Pass, so it like doesn't matter anyways.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess the biggest thing with Game Pass is that you have to have, currently right now, you have to have a console or a PC. So,
or a PC.
And it's always, for Microsoft, they've always been a software company. So, and then they finally started doubling down on that when they were buying a bunch of studios recently. So, and if they can pump out the software and they can be the quote unquote Netflix of video games, like, more power to them, because it's definitely enticing enough to me to pay attention to their platform.
Yeah. The next game that was shown off was the next game from Don't Nod, Tell Me Why. I believe this was originally revealed during the last Xbox showcase. It looks exactly like a Don't Nod game, the creator's Life is Strange, so it's definitely a game that I'll be interested in playing. It's like a bond between two twins, and there's like some supernatural elements with it. It looks really interesting. I know like one of the characters is trans, so it's going to explore those elements. Hopefully it does it really well. Life is Strange or the developers Don't Nod, they do a really good job of exploring topics. Sometimes they could be a little clumsy here and there, like Life is Strange wasn't perfect, but they at least take the chances to explore topics that aren't really like looked into deeply in gaming. And this one's coming out soon. It's August 27th for Chapter 1. And they're committing, I believe, to a schedule for this, as opposed to their other episodic games where it's just kind of like whenever.
Well, I think the trouble that Telltale went through about a year ago now is definitely, I'm surprised that their episodic games are still a thing. I understand that this studio has done a great job with their episodic games. Life is Strange 2 have been things that people have recommended as must-plays for a long time now. Partially because they're out they're available in their entirety right now, which I think definitely knocks them up another level. So it'll be a wait and see approach with this, but I would think that the second episode would have to be out before the holiday, right?
I would think so. I'm hoping if they said they're committed to schedule, it's going to be, and they already said it's just 3 episodes. They're not going to stretch themselves and do 5 or 6. So I'm hoping September, October, and it's done before November.
I was going to say they need to be done by the holiday if that's the case. 4 to 6 weeks per episode, maybe window.
Yeah.
Because then by the holiday they can do the complete edition or whatever,
and then it could be ready for launch. It's interesting though. I wonder. So this is going to be like exclusive. Microsoft is publishing this. There was rumors that Don't Nod might be acquired by Microsoft. I don't know if those rumors just was this a deal, or if this might be like a trial run for Don't Nod in terms of like, I know they're already pretty established.
Hey, if it doesn't suck, we'll buy you.
Like, yeah, if they see it of just like, hey, let's see how far you could go with our backing, and then if this works out, acquire.
Well,
I
think one of the biggest. I think one of the biggest things though, like you said, with their backing, like, can this studio, if Microsoft provides them with the bankroll and the payroll that they need to hit a schedule, like, does that mean that they can produce more games, in smaller chunks like this? Could we get 2 games a year that are 3 episodes? And continue to tell great stories, or continue to branch out into different endeavors as well.
Microsoft's been, they had like multiple failed attempts at like trying to get into like the television format. Could this be a pathway if they wanted to get back into that, of like, here's episodic content to push on Game Pass? Especially, this would be a great way. Water, there you go. This would be a great way to motivate people to keep their Game Pass subscription, because I have a feeling a lot of people are going to use Game Pass for like when Halo comes out.
For
there's
Halo,
nothing stopping anybody.
Yeah.
There's nothing stopping anyone from getting 1 month of Halo or 1 month of Game Pass, and then as soon as they beat it, they cancel. Episodic games could be a really huge part of Game Pass's future, because it's like if Don't Nod can hit each episode every month, that's probably enough to get someone to do 3 months of Game Pass.
Absolutely. Yep. That's something we've heard about people that get it, and I know it's an old series, but like, oh, I bought, I re-upped my Netflix subscription and I binged House of Cards and now I'm done. So this could definitely be something to that extent. And again, if this studio does get acquired and they find out that some of this episodic content could work, like I mentioned earlier, 2 games a year, maybe like every other month, could keep people's subscription active, which is what they're going for, because ultimately they get minimum $120 a year from each Game Pass subscriber, minimum.
Yeah.
So, and then they showed Ori and the Will of the Wisp. Again, this is a little bit of my ignorance. I know this is the sequel to Ori and the Blind Forest, correct?
Yes, and this is already out. So all they advertise for this is smart delivery, and you'll be getting like the Ultimate Edition with improved audio and visuals on the Series X.
And they showed it side by side, showing what they're going to be able to accomplish and what it currently looks like. Again, it's a great service. If you already have the game and you enjoy it, then you can just look at it and make it look better. And if maybe you're waiting for that to come out, there's still like you keep hearing holiday 2020. I just want somebody to slip and say like, oh, it'll be available like November 17th, and like, oh, whoa, wait a minute, like. Obviously that wouldn't happen at an Xbox pre-recorded event, but
yeah.
It looked great. Again, Ori is a series that I want to try to play. So
yeah, and you have Game Pass.
I just haven't done it. So.
Yeah, and I know the first one's on the Switch. I don't know if the second one's on the Switch, but could be a good Switch game. All right, and then we get this is the my shit corner, basically, of where Obsidian is like one of my like favorite developers. They did New Vegas, they did Outer Worlds. They basically announced 3 pieces of content, 2 games, 1 DLC. The first announcement was Outer Worlds is getting a Peril of Gorgon DLC this fall. Don't worry, even though Microsoft owns Obsidian, this is coming to all the platforms that the Outer Worlds is available on, so you don't have to worry about that. PlayStation, I think, tweeted out the trailer shortly after it was revealed at the Xbox, but it had the PlayStation logo on the end of it.
We're relevant too.
Yeah, it's like we have it on our platform too. It's cool that they were able to continue to do, the DLC for this instead of just being like, Outer Worlds is done. Usually, they moved on.
Yeah, usually publishing deals are tied to IPs, so like this isn't a huge surprise. Outer Worlds is a multi-platform IP, but I don't think Grounded is.
No, and this is one of those things. But Microsoft could have easily have just told 2K and Private Division, like, hey, put one of your studios on DLC for this. This is our studio. I don't know what their contract would have been, but they could have been done with Outer Worlds, and no one would have been like surprised. So they're continuing.
But they didn't do it to. Microsoft didn't do that to Mojang. So
yeah. But they could have told them to like just focus on Grounded and their other announcements as opposed to working on DLC. But we don't know what the contract is with Private Division and 2K for this. But it looks cool. I loved Outer Worlds, so happy to see more of it. And I think it does say the expansion. This expansion will be part of Game Pass. So the expansions for Outer Worlds, I don't know how many expansions they'll end up being, if this is the first or the last DLC for it. But that's going to be part of Game Pass.
Yeah, I mean, the article that we're referencing, it says Xbox Game subscribers can get the Outer Worlds expansion or the full expansion pass, which contains at least one more adventure for a 10% discount. So,
yeah. So that's going to be all part of Game Pass. And then it showed the other Obsidian game, which comes out next week, Grounded. This is basically Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the video game.
This game looks really cool. Like, the more they show of this, it looks more and more interesting. Because it looked like they were showing some tower defense aspects of it, right?
Yeah, there was a lot of elements, or at least that's what I got from it. It might be we might be completely off.
Base building or home building while you're exploring, and looks like some resource management, which usually, like, I don't really like that kind of game, but in this world or this environment of where you're like what appears to be similar to, like you said, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, like you're in somebody's backyard.
Yeah. As a kid, I loved the Army Men games, the little toy soldier games, and I've been wanting an experience like that for a long time, and Grounded looks like it could be doing it. It's early access, which I thought was interesting. So, like, this is going to be an ongoing sort of development, but it's coming out next week, and it's going to be on Game Pass and Xbox, and I'm going to check it out. I'm hoping it's really good. Obsidian is...
If this has multiplayer, we totally got to play this together.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm hoping it does, because it's early access. Usually I associate early access with some sort of multiplayer feature that they need to work on. So I was mildly interested when it was first announced last year, and after this trailer, I'm like, okay, I'm definitely going to download that and give it a shot.
Yeah. I like the premise of what they were showing, but I was kind of curious of, like, okay, what are they really going to do? And then some of the stuff that they showed, like, of the what again would appear to be base building or home building. Am I going to have to build my base to, like, survive a lawnmower?
Yeah. Hopefully that's in there, and we weren't just like over analyzing a trailer, and it's just going to be a straightforward hack and slash sort of thing. But yeah, there's a lot of potential here, and because it's an early access, it gives me hope that there might be a little bit more to this game, or at least in the future, if not on launch. And then the final Obsidian announcement.
Okay, hang on. So again, we're referencing an IGN article. So Grounded is releasing in early access July 28th this year, just a few days away. Grounded is a co-op survival adventure.
Perfect. Okay, so
players are shrunk to the size of ants. They must work together to return back to normal size, while along the way avoiding dangers and hostile bugs. So there is some type of, I think, so the survival aspect would be, resource management, bringing stuff back.
But yeah, no, co-op. Yeah, so, we'll when you get back next week, you got to download that, and then we'll try Grounded. And then the last Obsidian announcement, very brief teaser, is a game called Avowed, and yeah, so it's a fantasy world that has been the setting for the Pillars of Eternity games, but yeah, this looks like Obsidian's version of an Elder Scrolls game. Like, this looks like a Skyrim like experience, which the trailer immediately caught my eye, and Obsidian doing a fantasy
this is
world?
Their bread and butter. Yeah, this is Obsidian's bread and butter. So
yeah, and I feel like they haven't even really dabbled in this as much as they could have, because they did do Vegas, they did Alpha Protocol. They've done like a bunch of different games, but I feel like it's been a while since we've gotten like this sort of experience from them, or at least at this scale, or at least I hope it's a big scale, because Microsoft money.
Well, I'm about to say, and they did Pillars of Eternity, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and most of those, I think all of those were kickstarted.
Yes.
So it was, now they have the money. Microsoft is providing them the money up front.
That's what excites me.
Do it, because before there, I remember in Drazen Schreier's book, Blood, Sweat, and Pixels, there was talk about, oh shoot, we hit another Kickstarter goal, like we have to build another destination. How are we going to get that done before launch? And then they would have to delay it. Now they know, like I'm sure before they started, or as they were starting development of this game, like they know the scope that they're going for, and they hopefully can hit it and not be worried about, like, can we afford to build this other aspect? Like, do we have time to do this? And then, either they get the help from other studios, or they get the funds that they need to hire the staff that they need, which is the coolest part about these studios being purchased by huge corporations.
Yeah, which is sometimes scary, but we're in a weird time where acquisitions are actually beneficial to a lot of these studios, especially during a console war. I'm the only worry I have with this whole thing that Obsidian announced is I hope they scaled their team enough to handle all of the work that they have, or how far out of Avowed is actually going to be, because if Grounded is in early access, then it's going to be an ongoing work. We don't know the scale exactly of it.
Yeah, you got a team working on Outer Worlds, which is multi-platform team. Then you got a team working on Grounded, which is looking to be, if it's in early access already, like you said, looking to be maybe some type of service game that they're still, possibly producing content over time to remain relevant and to remain being played. And then you have the team that's working on this.
So I'm hoping they're up enough and can handle all this work. But if Avowed takes a little bit of time to work on it, I'm not going to freak out, because I didn't know it existed until yesterday, so I can't be like upset.
Well, and again, this is probably only going to run on Xbox Series X.
Yes.
And so, which means it's probably, again, at the best case scenario, like holiday 2021 or early 2022, best case scenario. So you already have at least 12 to 15 month push out.
Yeah. So we got it. We can like figure out or infer like a sense of time for all this stuff. And then they moved on to interesting art style of a game, As Dusk Falls. This apparently, according to the article, is from like a former game designer at Quantic Dream. And knowing that now, it makes more sense to me. This is like an interactive, like, drama. It almost looks like a Telltale type game, but like better looking.
I feel like they could have, if they would have put something at the beginning of this trailer that said, from parts of the mind of Quantic Dream, or parts of the mind of, Beyond Two Souls.
Yeah.
Like, I think that people would have been like, okay,
they can place
but again,
it
this is the part of like having a recorded event, and they did a good job of like showing a game and then having somebody talk about it. But like, I feel like in terms of something like this, especially this one being a new studio, whether it's third party or first party, this would have been like, hey, we've got a new studio and we've got the lead, the narrative lead or whatever he was, the game designing lead from Quantic Dreams is now heading up the studio. You would have got a little bit more perspective of where the game was coming from.
Yeah, and so the story, it looks like it's like centered around like this hotel, like this motel, and there's like multiple families and lives that intersect here. It's apparently like multiple generations. It looks interesting. I want to know how it's gonna function and play, but I'm interested in it. And it's someone from Quantic Dream that isn't David Cage, so I'm really interested in it. So there's a chance the writing will be, tolerable.
Tell me how you really feel.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, you got time. Let's just turn this into I think Quantic Dream is great. Yeah, so I'm hoping we get something more, because I always feel like the Quantic Dream games have always had potential, and they don't quite reach like what I think they could reach, and seeing someone from that studio do their own thing interests me. It excites me, and seeing what they can do. Okay, here's something I should be excited for, but I was ultimately kind of disappointed. Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. It's set in Iceland, and that was basically it. That's basically all they like told us, and I was really hoping for something, because I love.
I think
Hellblade.
that a lot of us are thinking that Hellblade was going to be a launch for Series
X. It doesn't
X.
seem like it now, unless they clarified.
I think if it was, it would have said holiday 2020 at the end of whatever they were showing.
Yeah.
This is another concern. Yeah, this is another concern I have, though, of like, we heard about them being a smaller studio, and then Ninja Theory being a relatively smaller studio, and then Bleeding Edge kind of limped out.
Yeah.
And then this looks to be farther out than expected. So like, is this studio absorbing more than it can handle?
I'm hoping they're just taking their time. It does seem like they were talking about it being a bigger experience than the first game, which is good. Though there's something about like, I was happy when Ninja Theory got acquired, because they were a studio that always had great ideas, but I feel like they never had like the financial backing they needed to tell their stories. But when they first were talking about releasing Hellblade, they talked about how they wanted to basically do AAA indie games, like smaller AAA experience games, like highly polished experiences, but aren't going to be like $60, 30-hour games. And I hope they don't lose what made Hellblade so special by making a gigantic game. You know, like I still want them to have that like AAA indie vibe to them. And I don't know, maybe it's because they didn't show me enough about it. I'm just going to get in my head about this game until I see it. But I was really hoping we would get a little bit more than the game takes place in Iceland. But
right.
There's still time, I guess, for them to show us more because the game's not making it this holiday. And then
this other thing for you.
Yeah, this. So I've never played the first Psychonauts, but this made me want to get Psychonauts, or I have it. I just have never played it, and this is, I feel like the most Double Fine thing. It's just like, okay, we have Microsoft money. Jack Black is going to sing our trailer, sort of thing. I know he's friends with like Double Fine, and he's worked with them before. I got really excited when I saw Jack Black because I thought maybe he would get Brutal Legend too, but this trailer looked amazing. I don't know if it was just the elevated because of Jack Black, but it looked super trippy.
I wish I could have that kind of beard though. Like that. I want that
it's
beard.
Really great. Yeah, I think it's just like he seems like the happiest, unstressed dude that he could just grow like an amazing beard.
I'm Jack Black. What are you gonna do?
He's got a YouTube channel. He plays games sometimes.
Yeah.
This looked great. I love that there was reports earlier this year where like they interviewed Tim Schafer and he was talking about like the development troubles in Psychonauts of like they were gonna have to cut like elements away and potentially like lose boss battles and all sorts of things that they were hitting budget wise that they couldn't do because it was like a Fig or Kickstarter game. And Microsoft came in, wrote the checkbook, and then they got to do everything they wanted. And seeing this trailer, I'm like, oh shit, they might have gotten everything they wanted to do. So I'm excited just for Double Fine being able to be Double Fine. But what did you think of this trailer? Did it interest you enough to play it as someone who has not played the previous game?
It's just, I mean, for me, it doesn't really, the series for some reason just doesn't really do anything to me. A lot of people love the series, and you know, I know it's Double Fine's like first game. It's I don't have anything against it, but there's nothing that's drawing me to it at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I can see that. Because I mean, it came out during that like platformer age, and then it's just been a really long time since they've returned to it. But yeah, I'm just excited. I think that was a really great showcase for the game. How they presented it, and the Jack Black thing was just fun. I'm sure it didn't cost them a lot of money because Tim Schafer and Jack Black seem to be like best friends. Mm-hmm. But it definitely, in my head, I was just like, this is where Microsoft money's going. This is great. Like, I like the idea that, you know, Tim Schafer is like, okay, hey, I'm going to get Jack Black to do this trailer. You got to pay him. And then Microsoft's like, all right, let's go. All right, Dave, you're going to have to explain this bit to me. It seemed kind of crazy, but I don't know if I'm overthinking everything they announced.
Yeah, it also sparked a lot of conversation on our Facebook group last night, so it's interesting. So Destiny 2 Beyond Light is coming out in November. And it doesn't appear it is. They announced yesterday at the showcase that it will be part of Xbox Game Pass in September. So come September, Destiny 2 is being added to the Xbox Game Pass, which means that, and the content that's being added is everything.
Yes.
So you can essentially play, if you are a Game Pass subscriber, you can play all aspects of Destiny 2. You do not have to worry about other than seasonal content. So, and which is where their bread and butter and their money comes from. The biggest surprise with this, though, is that they are also in November when Beyond Light comes out, which has been recently delayed 2 months by Bungie, is that Beyond Light expansion will be part of Game Pass as well. So, what this means is, and there's still some clarity that they have to give to this, but essentially Xbox Game Pass subscribers on Xbox or what I believe to be on PC can play all aspects of Destiny 2 as part of your Game Pass subscription going forward until it comes off of Game Pass, which Bungie released a FAQ stating that when it does come off of Game Pass, which they're not saying when it will, but I don't know how long this deal goes for, that you would need to go back and buy the prior content if it is something you still desire to play. The first caveat that everybody already saw, well, the game's free to play anyways. Like, no, it's not. So year one of Destiny 2 was free to play. The Red War campaign, and all of the Curse of Osiris and Warmind, all of that content was part of the free to play aspect for the new Light player. In November, when Beyond Light comes out, all of that content is being vaulted. So all of year one content is being put away. I'm assuming that would mean that Destiny 2 Forsaken expansion, year 2, quote unquote, year 2, would become the free to play aspect. All of the content you get from Destiny 2 Forsaken would be free to play, and then you would still have to decide if you want to buy Shadowkeep or buy Beyond Light. And then the seasonal content costs $10 for every 90 days. The seasonal content is the battle pass, and usually there is some kind of open world activity that you can participate in. It's still available. A lot of these activities are available in the free-to-play area because it's part of the open world aspect of it. Sometimes there are events during the seasonal content that are separate nodes in the game, like an area that you launch through the director, and if you don't have the season pass for that season, you wouldn't be able to launch that content. So now, why do I think that they did this? Because First Taste is free. Mm-hmm. They're more concerned about building you and building the evolving world and the continuation of building on the seasonal content. And if it means they have to give you Beyond Light for free as part of your Xbox game subscription, and then it gets you hooked into the world and you want to buy the season pass, and then buy the next season pass and the next season pass of giving you, quote unquote, $40 of content for free to get you to spend $40 is a win. Mm-hmm. So like this is pretty cool. And then the other part that's really cool is that this is going to be part of xCloud, which is super fascinating to me, even if I don't play it on Xbox, because I have like 4 questions jumped in my head right away when this happened. The first question is, because like I know we ran into this issue a little bit with Halo Master Chief that we didn't know the answer to, is like, if I'm playing on my PC on the Xbox app, can I play with people that are playing the same game on Steam? And I think the answer to that question right now is no.
Yeah, I believe it's divided as of right now, yes.
So they've also Bungie's talked about cross-generational play of playing Xbox One players playing with Series X and PS5 players playing with PS4 players. My concern with this is that it could, for PC players, it could separate your player base again. You could have Steam players, you could have Xbox PC players, you could have Xbox console players, and you could have PlayStation console players and Stadia players. Those are all separate matchmaking pools, which only dilute your matchmaking. So that's the first thing that I'm curious about. And then the other caveat to that would be, if I'm playing on xCloud, which platform am I technically playing on? Am I playing on Xbox console platform, or am I playing on an Xbox PC platform?
Yeah. I mean, it all connected to your Xbox Live account, so at least that. But yeah, I don't know what it means for crossplay. I'm assuming this is just going to force crossplay to just be more like open to everything.
Yeah. There's more questions that have to be answered. It's really cool. Like, I think it's a great concept, a great way to introduce people that are maybe on the fence about playing Destiny. And again, full caveat, like, I love this game. I appreciate what this game does. I play this game a ton, so I want everybody to make sure that they understand it. But it's really an interesting choice, because it might force some of the other platforms to try to do something similar or different. Because with cross-save in Bungie's account being a thing, everything being kept on Bungie.net, I can just take my Steam character and my PS4 character, which are the same, and put them on Xbox and play part of the subscription that I'm already paying for. Mm-hmm. Like, why would I buy it on PC on Steam, or why would I buy it on PS4 or PS5 other than that's where my friends are?
Yeah.
And with cross save and the possibility of spending a certain amount of and my understanding as well, unless they're changing it, I can buy the seasonal content on PS5 as part of because I buy it with Silver with Bungie's money system, their microtransaction system. I buy the seasonal stuff directly from Bungie, so therefore my seasonal content is available on all platforms. Like currently, I can play my season pass stuff on PC and on PS4 right now, and I could play it on Xbox, and I could play it on Stadia if I wanted to. So buying the seasonal stuff for $10 on whatever platform I choose to buy it on, it's a win for the consumer and for the player.
Yep,
huge win. So
yeah.
But there's more questions left. So
which I'm sure Bungie will answer over time, eventually.
But I think again, from a Bungie standpoint, is they lost a lot of players to when Destiny had their PlayStation exclusive content. That was a huge part of the reason why PlayStation was winning the console war early on, because that was a huge game. Like that was a console selling game. And then they had the exclusive content of weapons and strikes, and they were able to pull a lot of Xbox players away. And over time, some of those players, maybe some of their friends all didn't come away, and now with cross save, like they could go back. So this could swing the pendulum the other way from the Destiny player base.
Yeah. I'm interested to see where this goes. That thing I think was like the takeaway I took from that, just in terms of like the push for xCloud, and like another reason I hope more games kind of go this route, and get included with like xCloud. This idea of taking, Destiny anywhere, and because you have your Bungie account, you can just.
Oh, it's gonna destroy Stadia.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Stadia. Like.
So it's super intriguing to me. It's an upgrade to I have Game Pass on PC. I'm paying whatever $10 or $12 a month. Like
$5.
It'll be super $5. Okay. It'll be super interesting to me to pay the extra $10 for me to be able to play Destiny wherever I want.
Yeah.
Just because I've been on the fence about buying a Stadia essentially as a Destiny supplement machine for myself to mess around with Destiny whenever I want. And not have to come downstairs on the PC to like pick up bounties or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So this is a huge thing that hopefully when xCloud launches, like we talked about on the previous episode, that there's an app on my Roku or my Fire Stick or on something that I can just sit on my couch and boot up Destiny and do some dumb things that I want to do while I'm watching TV or doing something else.
For sure. So moving on to the next portion. So basically every game that we're going to talk about after this will be launching exclusively on an Xbox console. So it will be out on PC and Xbox, but it's not going to be coming to a PlayStation console at launch. I always love these wordings because it always gets a little confusing, but they're at least pretty straightforward with this one. A game that they announced in this section was Stalker 2. I'm vaguely familiar with the Stalker franchise. It's like a PC franchise like 2006, 2007. And I think the last expansion to come out for that first was like 2010. So it's been a while. We knew this game was in development, but it was just always assumed, I guess, by the fan base that it was going to always be a PC. I don't think there's any surprise or shock that they're moving to console. All right. So the Stalker 2 announcement, I think it was just like people thought it would be exclusive to PC forever, but it's not surprising that it is coming to consoles in 2020, or not 2020, but like consoles in general after being like a largely exclusive PC series. But I don't really have too much experience with Stalker as is, or the next game that was announced, Warhammer 40,000 Darktide. I'm just going to bunch these two in because I feel like you're probably in the same boat in terms of like your experience with these franchises.
I've heard of Warhammer.
Yeah, I have too. This looks like Warhammer, but with like a more zombie like elements. But I don't know if those are like characters that are already in Warhammer. I know the people that are into Warhammer really fucking love Warhammer. So good for those people. This seems like Xbox is kind of going after like very specific audiences to get them on their side. The next thing though got me real excited. I hate that I get super excited when Tetris gets mentioned, but Tetris Effect is coming to Xbox consoles this holiday, and it's going to come with a multiplayer co-op competitive element. Damn it. But I believe it is coming to PC, so I'll still be able to enjoy it if I don't have an Xbox console this holiday. This DLC is going to be exclusive, I believe, until summer 2021. I believe that was confirmed on Twitter by the developers for this. But yeah, it's just that trippy Tetris effect with multiplayer. And I still play Tetris 99 to this day. I hope it includes some sort of like Tetris Battle Royale mode. But yeah, co-op and competitive Tetris, I'm all on board for this. Dave probably is not shocked by my love for Tetris.
No, it's fun. I mean, in building on the Tetris effect or the Tetris 99 world, all of it is cool. Figuring out a way to evolve a classic game like this, like they've been able to reinvent themselves multiple times to stay relevant multiple years later is always fascinating. And this is just another notch in their belt for them. So kudos to them.
Yeah, so I'm excited about this. I'll probably buy it again, but everything is going to be on Game Pass, so I'll check it out on PC until I can put it on my PlayStation at Holiday 2021, where all my Tetris Effect data is at. They followed this up with The Gunk, which is from the creators of the SteamWorld franchise. So it looks like it's like an exploration puzzle game. It looked pretty cool. The art style was a little different. I can't explain that art style exactly, but it looked interesting. Do you have thoughts on The Gunk?
I don't really remember a ton. This is the one where she was like sucking the stuff up, right?
Yeah, and I think there was like some goo or sludge. That's what the Gunk.
Yeah, this actually looked pretty cool. Like kind of had a little bit of a Mario Paint aspect to it as well. Mario Sunshine, not Mario Paint. Where like she moved some stuff around and it was a little bit of a platformer. So the look and the graphics of this were really intriguing to me, and I just want to see a little bit more, like kind of what the story is and what the premise is of what's going on and what exactly is that mechanic that you're doing. But it definitely looked interesting enough to me that I was like, hey, this is kind of cool. So
yeah. All right, the next game I think was probably my favorite game that they announced, The Medium, which looks like it is a like psychedelic, almost not psychedelic, but it's a mystery game involving like a psychic medium and I don't know, a detective mystery game with a horror theme is something I enjoy a lot. This has an interesting concept where your character can be both in the real world and like a nightmare world, and you actually play those sections simultaneously, and it looks like you jump between them as well pretty fast. I almost feel like this is like the answer to the Ratchet and Clank demo, but not as big a scale as that, in terms of like maybe this harnesses the SSD technology in terms of being able to flip between worlds or dimensions at like a cool like rate. And I want to know what the playing simultaneous actually works out to. We've seen Brothers, which was like a co-op game where you actually control two characters simultaneously. So I wonder if it's quite like that. But I think this game had a hell of a cool style. I got a Control vibe from it, and I want to see more of this, because it's been a while since I've had like a good scary game to play, specifically a good scary game with like detective and mystery elements.
Yeah, it definitely looked cool. Like the gameplay mechanic was interesting, and the way they were showing that you were in the same space but in two different dimensions. It's a little bit of Zelda: Link to the Past, where you were kind of going back and forth and using what you did in one dimension to help you in the other dimension. I'm sure that'll be a gameplay element as well. And then, like you said too, how like instantaneous that can be, and how often you're going to be going back and forth. Guacamelee did something kind of similar, but not quite as to this extent. Like that was just more of a precision platformer where you were changing mirrored environments. Mm-hmm. This one looks like could be very vastly different environments. Yeah. All being in the same space, I guess.
Yeah. Then they followed it with Phantasy Star Online 2. It's getting like a new entry or new expansion pass. This Phantasy Star Online
20th anniversary. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been around for a while. That they brought Phantasy Online or Phantasy Star Online over not too long ago. But yeah, this is this new world, new enemies. It is. I don't know. I just kind of shrugged at this. I know there's a specific audience for this, but it just wasn't my sort of thing. So
yeah, I've checked this out on some streams, and because it was something I thought maybe I'd be interested in, but it's an MM. It looks like a very clunky top-down MMO to me.
Yeah. But what did you think of Crossfire X? This was a very cinematic-looking trailer, and it looks like the campaign is being developed by Remedy, the Control Alan Wake people. This
impressed me very, very much. Yeah, this impressed me very much. The guns looked very, very realistic in terms of from a military shooter standpoint. It had a little bit of the supernatural vibe to it as the trailer went on, but a lot of what I saw, it looked really good. I thought when they first announced this, we were like, what the heck is that? And then now that they've shown a little bit more of it, it's definitely one of the top things that I saw from the show, where I was I think I even rewound it and watched it again just to make sure that I was seeing what I was seeing. Mm-hmm. And if they can balance out that realistic tactical shooter with the Control Alan Wake world kind of things, like supernatural things that they were doing, I think that sounds really cool. I definitely got a little, a small bit of Rainbow Six vibes to it from the shooting standpoint, mm-hmm. of how the scope sways and you can kind of tilt and position yourself differently, and then what the guns were doing, looking like a normal gun and then shooting it out and having just these massive explosions. The upgrades would look very interesting to me. So this game was very low on my radar, and it moved up very fast from the showcase. So.
Yeah, this was because it wasn't the last thing, but technically it was, because the last thing was a one more thing scenario. I thought this was a good way to end the regular show, because this was definitely a game. When you walk away from it, it kind of sticks in your head of I want to know more about that game. So I think this was a really good trailer of something that could be really fun to play. And I love stuff that Remedy works on, so want to know how that's gonna work out for them. I think Crossfire X was one of those games. It wasn't on my radar, and then after I saw this, I was super excited about checking out more of this. But
I feel like this was something that was in their B-roll for E3 last year at their press conference, where they showed it, and I was like, "What the?"
I think so. I remember hearing
about
it
quickly shown. Yeah, and it was a big deal because I guess it's a PC only franchise that's coming to console as well. So this is something else that they worked on. So
yeah. And then finally, the one more thing, because after Crossfire, they kind of just started to wrap it up, but then they said, we have one more thing, and that one more thing was a very cinematic CGI teaser for Fable. It's just called Fable, so it's not Fable 4. We don't know if it's a reboot or a refresh, or if it's like Forza, where it's a continuation, but they're just rebranding. But really fun trailer for Fable. I was talking to Sarah about Fable because she played the first two, and she doesn't really remember the third one. And then I talked to other people about it, and a lot of people don't really remember the third one. So I'm leaning towards this just being a reboot or refresh of the series.
Well, the article mentions called simply Fable. It's a new beginning for the beloved fantasy RPG series.
Yeah, so it makes sense based on the people that I've talked to that are they loved 1, they loved 2, and they can't remember anything about 3, or not much from 3. So this looked cool. The Fable franchise is always a franchise I always kind of wanted to get into, but never did, just because I didn't own a 360. So I was happy about this. Fans have been asking and demanding for a Fable game to happen, and Peter Molyneux is not going to be involved with this because the studio isn't with it. This is going to the Playground Studio, who have only really been working on the Forza Horizon games the last couple of years. So this is them stepping away from Forza to work on a beloved RPG franchise. So I thought that was a good way to end the show. Of course I would have loved more footage, but it's probably a long way out. Otherwise,
how surprised were you when the fairy got eaten?
I kind of expected it. The Fable franchise, from what I remember, has always been kind of tongue in cheek, kind of having fun and stuff like that. So I wasn't surprised something bad happened to the fairy. But I don't know. It looked funny. The trailer. I can't say the game looks good because I have no idea what the game looks like. But it was a nice way to be hey, we didn't forget about Fable. So
and again, it's actually called Fable Xbox Series X announcement. So this is a Series X announcement. So again, this is probably at least 12 to 15 months out.
Yeah, which is fine. which is fine. But that was
absolutely.
the Xbox press conference, or the Xbox game showcase. Dave, do you have any thoughts about the conference overall? How did you walk away from it, especially in comparison to like the PlayStation press conference?
I feel like Sony has a little bit more stuff ready for this fall, versus what Xbox does. And again, it's Xbox's choice to require this from their first party studios for their games to work on both platforms. So it's the same thing that we've been touting, or that I've been touting for the last 6 months, of like, why nothing shown today makes me want to buy a Series X. It just made me want to buy Game Pass Ultimate.
Same. Yeah, that's how I walked away from it. I was just like, Game Pass is what you need.
Right, and that's totally fine. Like if they're in the like, are they releasing the consoles because they knew Sony was releasing a console? Or are they releasing it because they were trying to get the third party developers are telling them, hey, you need a new console, like we're running out of space, and as Microsoft as a corporation is maybe not ready, and they will be ready next year. Like that's fine, and getting the console, getting the hardware out there, getting that part done, and then starting to focus on the games after that is fine, because it seemed like they prior gen were trying to focus on the hardware and all the stuff it could do, and and then the games ended up kind of falling to the wayside, as long as with all the services they were trying to provide. And now just lumping all of that services into Game Pass, like we previously talked about, into whatever this Xbox Ultimate package is, that's $15 or $20, and it's going to take care of Xbox Live, Xbox Game Pass on console and PC, and along with xCloud, all of it being dumped in there. That just means that they're like, okay, that segment is right there, and that's for everybody. And then this segment is the consoles, and it'll be ready to go. And it's a baby that as it starts to walk and talk is going to be really cool, but it's still a baby. And we're still using the siblings until the baby's ready, which is totally fine. Like, yeah. And they showed some really cool stuff today. Again, I was worried about, like, I'm not as excited as everybody else is for Fable, because I never played Fable. Halo Infinite looks cool, but I'm not sitting there going, I can't wait to continue the story, because I don't have a clue what's going on. But what they showed is really cool, and they showed gameplay for Halo, which is great. Their marquee franchise they showed gameplay for. But that's their problem, is they don't have marquee franchises right now, or franchises that carry the weight that Uncharted does, and Last of Us does, and God of War, and all of those other, a few other franchises carry on the Sony side of things. But they're circumventing a lot of that with the Game Pass. And the Game Pass is every month shows another reason that Sony's lack of ability to improve their service.
No, it totally does. Like, I almost feel like, but we've been saying this for a while since Game Pass was introduced, that Sony needs to step up like their PS Plus, PS Now offering, because they've just made those services smaller, in terms of like PS Plus downgrading from 4 games to 2 games, and getting rid of the PS3 stuff. Not that anyone actually downloaded that on the PS3 anymore, but they've downgraded their services as opposed to expanding it like Microsoft did.
Yeah, so I feel like the average consumer, come November or whenever these consoles come out, they're going to have Game Pass. They're going to see these games. They're going to be playing these games. They're going to be having fun. And then maybe in the back of their mind, they're going to be thinking, like, oh, this could be, if I get the Series X, like, these games could just run better. Mm-hmm. They're going to be optimized better versus, like a Sony standpoint of, like, and again, I'm not saying this decision is wrong, but you want to play the new Spider-Man? You got to go drop the X amount of dollars. And Microsoft saying, hey, you don't have to do that right now, but you can do that when you're ready.
Yeah. And here's the aspect I realized, like, last night after, like, I was thinking about the event. If you're in the Microsoft ecosystem, or you want to buy in, this launch of the new console is going to be perfect, because if you look at it, like, all right, I want to buy a PlayStation 5 day one. If I want to buy that, it's going to be however dollars, $400. Let's say it's $400 or $500. And then I want Spider-Man and Gran Turismo. That's going to be $60 each. So I'm going to have to drop $120 down day one, along with my $500 console. If you want to buy into Xbox, you just have to buy the Xbox and a Game Pass membership.
You could go buy the all digital version right now for $200 and a $15 or $20 monthly membership, and you're good.
Yeah.
For a long time.
And
a long time.
And if you're going to the console launch this year, you don't have to worry about, like, because I have this problem every time there's a console launch. So I want to buy the console, and then I'm like, well, I just dropped $500 on this console. I don't have money for like all the games that are out, I have money for maybe 1, if I'm super lucky, 2. Now it's just like I just had to buy the console, and then $15 for the month pass, for that month, and I have the whole lineup,
obviously, or
most of the lineup.
And obviously that's $150 a year, which is essentially, 2 or 3 $60 games. But what you're getting with Game Pass is so substantial. Of like, you get the Halos, and you get everything that we just talked about.
Yeah,
everything that we just talked about, you get. Any game that we just mentioned in the last hour and 10 minutes, like, you get.
Yeah.
On top of stuff that they haven't even said that you're getting yet.
Yeah. On top of the library that's currently there, which is pretty beefy. The only thing I hope they do as they fix all this up is have some more parity between the PC and the Xbox game list, especially now with xCloud coming in. Hopefully they figure out how to get those libraries to match each other.
And I think that's the way that they're necessarily going to make them match each other or not match each other is the xCloud service requires Game Pass Ultimate.
Yeah.
So if you have Game Pass Ultimate, you get console and PC, so it's irrelevant to you.
Yeah, you just have to then just hope that they have a TV application or a browser application or desktop application to make that work. But yeah, I walked away from this. I thought it was good. I saw also there was a lot of negativity coming out of it, but I feel like every event has negativity coming out of it. Mm-hmm. I still think PlayStation probably put on a better show with blockbusters, but this was a good show. This was a great showcase of a good variety of games. More gameplay would have been nice, but there's still plenty of time. I really hope, though, that Xbox and PlayStation stop playing this game of chicken and just release the price already. But it is what it is.
I mean, similar to Ubisoft Forward, Microsoft said that they've got another one of these events coming. Ubisoft Forward said they have another one of these events coming. Sony's just been kind of quiet.
Yeah, there's a rumor August 6th. But
tons of rumors of State of Play, but even at the end of their PlayStation 5 reveal, they didn't say, we'll talk to you again in a couple months. Like, they just said, here's our system, see ya.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I overall, good show. Now let's just hope Nintendo can do one.
Great show, yeah. So, yeah. All right, please send us your feedback. Send us your thoughts. We've covered our non-E3 year. We've covered a lot of PlayStation and Ubisoft and Microsoft events and all these other things going on along with all these conversations. And if Sony does have one on August 6th, I'm sure we'll be putting something out on August 7th or 8th to cover it. It's been loads of fun. And again, I do apologize for a little bit of a delay on this stuff. It's not as fast of a turnaround as we want it to be, but this will be live going into the weekend. So if you guys are traveling at all over the weekend or listening to it, we appreciate it. But again, send us your thoughts. Join the Facebook group. Post your thoughts on the Microsoft event. Join Discord. Post your thoughts there. Look at Patreon if you want. Patreon.com/digitaldaysgaming. There's a couple tiers there that you can support us to get access to our weekly show early, to get a bonus monthly episode, and then there's also if you feel so led, there's a direct PayPal donation link in the show notes as well. So I hope everyone enjoyed the event, and we will talk to you guys next week.
See ya.